Hello, everybody. And this fourth conversation is what this is. And Naomi, I want to get right into it. Naomi was just sharing something really amazing with me. It was about conflict within teams and how to separate the behavior, treat the behavior in a particular way uh, of the person, and then separate the human and treat the human in a particular way. Now, what are these two particular ways? And how do we effectively do that? Naomi's going to talk about that, and then we'll get into the remainder of the topics that we intended to continue from the previous conversation.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so we were talking about, well, at the end of our last conversation, we were talking about how to be in healthy relationship with other people on our team, especially as leaders or, within a company or a team. How do we deal with people, when there's conflict or issues or someone's not performing the way we want them to, or whatever the things that are coming up are, and how to, especially if we get triggered by that, which is, usually right in all relationships in life, generally what happens is whatever the scenarios, the situations, the issues that come up, they have some kind of learning for us, usually. And always it's a spotlight on where we need to grow. It's usually a mirror into deeper aspects of ourselves that wouldn't have come out without that relationship or interaction or whatever. So fundamentally, I think always it's important to understand that life is about growth and evolution, right? And there's constant opportunities for that. And everything that comes up, if it's like, okay, what is my 100% responsibility here? And now how do I use this opportunity to work on myself and show up to this conversation, issue, whatever, with integrity, not triggered, and really also be able to come from that divinity, I would say, integrity, I would say, big picture place within ourselves and inspire whoever it is, whether it be a team or an individual, to kind of call them as well to that place within themselves. So that's what we were talking about at the end of our last conversation. And we talked about expanding on this a little bit. So there's a lot of different aspects to this, but I think we talked about a little bit about like namaskaram or namaste, and how like really that greeting is about like the divinity in me bows to the divinity in you. And ultimately, like if we can engage in all of life from that place and to that place, like, yeah, there's activity, there's situations, there's a lot, but really to come from that place and speak and interact with that place and other people. And as a leader, especially, or as someone of influence, it's our responsibility to do that. It really is. So in terms of that question you just asked, though, I particularly in the Insight program, which we were talking directly about last time, there was a really cool example, which I'll share after I share the principle, which is deal with the issue or the behavior or the breach or lack of performance or whatever the issue is in a business-like way, and deal with the person in a human-like way. And for me, that's really resonates, because even in, partnerships, any kind of partnerships or business, I think it's really important to have clear agreements as much as possible. And also, of course, it's like we deeply care about other people, we deeply connect with them, or whatever it is, whether it be business or more intimate family relationships, like we're doing something with these people and we're spending a lot of time with them and we're investing our energies together. That's really incredibly beautiful stuff that needs to be honored. And in terms of clear agreements and contracts and just clear boundaries and clear expectations and clear, or maybe expectations isn't the right word, but like responsibilities, or things like roles, etc., that needs to be clear so that there isn't confusion, and that it kind of creates a container of integrity and respect within the relationship. So all that said, treat the person in a human way and the issue or behavior in a business way. And there was one example that I'll share from the conference, a big, huge company in India. And he was talking about someone who had acted out of integrity, a man, one of their employees. And they had to do disciplinary action and let him go. But also what the CEO shared is that he recognized that this man had a family, children, a partner, when he went back to his village or his area of town. This is in India. So like everyone was gonna be somehow aware of or in some way impacted by this. So he was very careful to deal with it in a very business or very human-like way, so that it would have the minimum negative ripples throughout his family and community. And I thought that was a super beautiful example. So yeah, is that what you wanted me to say? Or like, is that enough? Or
Yeah, I wasn't looking for an answer in particular. I wanted to open the door for you to share on
yes.
that. And I appreciate the human-like aspect, because that's something that's extremely important. It comes down to having the sensitivity to understand who you are dealing with, what the relationships they have in their life are, what society and culture they exist in, and what impact is going to be made in their lives in whatever the conflict is about, if it's not handled appropriately. Because because you don't know how a society or culture is going to receive it. It's going to vary depending on which society it is, which culture it is, because there's different societal and cultural values across the world.
So true. And at the same time, it's so important. That's like everything. And at the same time, what I notice is that usually when people are concerned with that aspect, they tend to like not really have great boundaries, and not necessarily be able generally to deal with things also in a business-like way. There tends to be kind of like some stickiness around that usually. Usually, I'm not saying always, but what I see is the ability and the need to be able to do both in a really beautiful, graceful, healthy manner, at the same time.
Okay, let's move on to some more insights that you have to share.
What else should we talk about? I think there's.
Pull out your notes from the event.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, I really like this one. So it kind of in the same vein here, because before our last conversation, we talked about like the 10 heads of Ravana and how like the one head of Ravana that was like a devotee and like a pious, like devoted spiritual man was the aspect of Ravana that Rama regretted having to kill. And the other aspects that were more demonic, negative, harmed the world or whatever, were there as well. But we talk about how basically as a human being, we have everything is within us, and definitely in different aspects of our nature, right? Like if we were put into a situation where we were desperate for food, we would become very animalistic, we would. And so there's like everything is possible within the nature of a human being. It's a question of the situation and then what we choose to culture and cultivate. And so as most of us know, as people who are interested in evolution and also the cultivation of our highest potential, we are looking at both our positive, I don't know if that's the right word to say, our strengths and our weaknesses. That's better than positive and negative. So anyway, I think that this particular aspect relates to what we were just talking about, which is to condemn qualities, not individuals. So it's like, yeah, so say on a team or whatever, certain people, or, because it's all about culture too. So we want to like cultivate healthy qualities, and when someone shows a quality or something that is there that is not healthy, productive, forward moving, maybe it weighs the team down, or it's some kind of like, dysfunctional or inefficient behaviors, that we don't just throw that person away. We see that individual beyond that. That's just a quality that or behavior, a pattern they're playing out. And that's something that, again, by creating a culture of not only inclusiveness, but of integrity, of high performance, of health, that's how we, inspire people to move forward and go beyond their limitations, really, to achieve something greater. Yeah, that one I really like.
That is really cool. I like that they condemn the quality, not the person. And one thing is, it's very simple and straightforward. If you can get people, the right person, the right seat. So if somebody gets to be in a situation where they're doing something that naturally comes to them or something they love, uh, then they're going to see progress in what they're doing. And that right there just makes things easier. And of course, the context, not the content, is what matters. So in whatever activity they're doing, if they have a larger context beyond just the action itself, but rather than instead of just the action itself, they're looking at what the action is giving in for the larger well-being of others.
And that connects directly to the vision, right? And that's why you have to have a strong vision and share your vision. When it's just a task, that's where people kind of like you said, basically it's not It depends. It depends, but it's oftentimes that's where the spark can die. I'll say it that way. Yeah, so important.
So rather
And
than spark dying, create a situation where the spark can become a full-blown fire, an explosion, and just expand.
so true. And if you have people who are, we're going to call it this, maybe this isn't perfect, but in their zone of genius or in something that they're like really interested and engaged in, and they understand and are like bought into or like subscribe to the larger vision, that's when you have people who are like innovative, right? And who are like interested and engaged and really paying attention and becoming more efficient and moving everything forward.
Yeah,
That's
it's about one, being in a state of flow, and two, seeing that you being in a state of flow is contributing to something far bigger than yourself, and three, having your personal needs taken care of. If all these three things are there, then you're not going to change the situation because it's the ideal situation. That's my observation.
yeah, it's really
That's how I intend to keep excellent, masterful geniuses near me so that we can work together and really do some impactful work.
nice. Yeah. And I don't know why, but I'm kind of moved to say this. Like one of like a couple of the people who shared at that conference talked about how really innovative, great, masterful people like moved on to start their own companies, and how for them that was actually something they really encouraged in their company culture, because even though it's like, oh, we wish we would still have them with us, the idea of creating a culture where you bring brilliant people in and they do brilliant things, and you have an environment that nurtures and grows capacity and potential, it's natural that those people, some of them, will want to create their own companies, and that's healthy. That means you have like most likely, obviously, you have to look at it, but it's a good thing, basically. And if you have that kind of what is the right word? I can't think of the word right now, but it's like a gestation, like this culture of like incredibly cool, innovative things happening. Um, you'll attract great people,
Yeah, it's a birthing. It should always be like that. I've envisioned that I would have my own team, and people that are in my team, they would receive incredible training. I would invest in them, and they would contribute. And at some point, they would go on to begin their own ventures, which could be massively impactful as well, right? And so that is the intention, which is to nurture amazing talent.
And you
And
see that in great tech companies and different companies, right? Like that's sort of what happens at the top of those top layers and levels. So good stuff. But yeah, that connects, of course, to cultivating environments that inspire and uplift people, right? And really have like a great vision. Um, this relates though to somebody. I was talking to somebody this week who works for Meta, and he was sharing with me like this sort of corporate, I'm going to say cutthroat, maybe. I don't know if that's a good word for it. Culture. Um, he called it sociopathic, actually. um, and I've obviously heard that from a lot of people over the years, from a lot of leaders, and people who working in those environments where it's just like really incredible, right? And really unhealthy, I would say, in a lot of ways. And definitely more about personal ambition than inclusivity, I would say, in general, right? And I just wanted to share, like he shared something with me, and I've heard this from a lot of different people, including myself. He talked about how he had like certain goals and certain things he wanted to achieve, and that when he got there, it was like almost soul crushing, because he realized that like it was hollow, and like now what, it didn't do what he thought it was going to do for him to achieve those goals. And to me, this relates to what we're talking about, because, and what we have talked about in the past, because in a way you could say like having a more conscious capitalism approach, a conscious business approach, an inclusive approach, like creating an environment where everyone thrives and having it be beneficial to literally everyone in the company, and have a bigger, larger vision, and that the way you impact the world is that way. One could argue that like you might lose some of your edge, and you might like not make as much money, and maybe there's like, that makes you soft or whatever. But again, it's just about taking a step back and including like it within your definition of success. It has to be a broader definition, because it can be just numbers and cars and material things, but we all know, anyone on this path knows, that that is empty and hollow. And there are a lot of what we call beggar billionaires in the world who have everything materially, but their lives are not fulfilling. They're not necessarily happy.
Well, the actions we take are based on our nature. So we are expressing ourselves through our action. But that's not where fulfillment comes. Fulfillment is not from the results of our actions, no matter how successful that may be. The fulfillment comes from experiencing a larger context. It's not about the content being bigger. It's not about our actions being bigger. It's not about our actions touching more lives. It's about the context that we have and we carry within ourselves. Because for some people, having a family of 4 is the most fulfilling thing ever. Whereas for others, building a company or leading a nation is the most fulfilling thing ever. But those are just expressions of who they are. The fulfillment is not because of what they're doing, because
Right.
they may not even get to that position. But the fulfillment comes from the context that one carries in oneself. Because true leadership, it could be somebody who is a bagger at a grocery store, right? A bagger is somebody who takes the groceries that you paid for and puts them in a bag for you. That could still be a fulfilling role for somebody who's just starting out. And the reason behind that is because of the context that they carry, because they know that by doing that, they could be helping an old person, and that touches them deeply. So that could leave them more fulfilled than the so-called beggar billionaire, who could also be doing some very impactful work, but that's just not how they're choosing to relate to
Yeah,
what they're doing.
true. That's true, I suppose. And I guess, yeah, I would say that the way I think of it is it's related to inclusion of the well-being of everyone, and doing work that truly impacts other people's lives, but also the very world that we live in a way that is healthy, positive, forward moving, like real, you know? Yeah. And we could talk even about like, you know, even what you were saying just before we started taping this conversation about AI and what's happening right now. And because, you know, just like the phone or anything, you know, it's either it's in your relationship with it, it's how you use it. It can either be experienced as a blessing or a curse, but ultimately it is an incredibly powerful tool. It's just how are you using it, you know?
Yeah, right before we started recording, I was just talking about how OpenAI released the latest model O3, and it's performing exceedingly well in the benchmarks, to the degree that some people believe that we have reached AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is a form of artificial intelligence or AI that quote unquote could replace a human or do pretty much anything a human can do, right? It's an artificial general intelligence. You don't have to tune it for anything. Just by itself, it can pretty much do a lot, simply based on how it performed on that benchmark, which was designed by humans. People think that, wow, we're at AGI or like pretty much there in 2024, and we expect it to be there near the end of the century, which people think it's a breakthrough. But no, we're not actually at AGI. But the main thing here that really, really excites me is the doors that have been opened up by this. First of all, it's extremely expensive. It costs $1,000 per task at like the highest level of O3 functioning, which is the form of O3 which did those tests and got like that 87% benchmark result or whatever it is, right? But the point is this, that it's too expensive to run, right? But it's probably going to get cheaper as time goes on. But even before that, right? O1 is also so amazing. What really excites me is if we can use these models, and especially maybe newer models will be coming out, if we can take this and apply it into other areas, because it's not about just using ChatGPT to like ask a bunch of questions. It's about taking these large language models and even diffusion models and applying them to real world use cases, to hard science, right? Drug discovery, discovery of new supermaterials. So what really excites me is maybe we can discover, formulate, manufacture, produce, and distribute incredible new materials and take scientific breakthroughs, create those scientific breakthroughs, put them through the labs, experiments to a degree that now it's useful for the market and distribute it. That could change lives. And I'm wondering, how can we make it so it doesn't just change lives for the people who are wealthy in the wealthiest nations, but for the people who are living in poverty in the poorest nations, right? Maybe there's a way that we can actually equalize access and capability for people around the world. When I look at Starlink, I see that as an immense capability for this. Like with Starlink, what do you see? You just get this thingamajig that some people might call, right? You get this thingamajig, and you pretty much have access to high-speed internet no matter where you are. That opens up so many doors for a lot of people who may not have this kind of access in so many places. I have not been to the remotest places, and so I can't confirm if internet and phone was available before this, especially maybe not high-speed internet. I don't know, but things like this, right? This is just one invention, but there could be a lot of new things and a lot of new opportunities that can open up for humanity, because the way that software is designed, the way that we interact with software, we can change it now in a way to make it even more effective. Everybody's saying 2025 is the year of AI agents, but if AI agents are implemented in a really amazing way that they change the way that we work, what other doors is that going to open up for us? And I wouldn't look at it from fear oh my God, AI is going to take away jobs. I would look at it from expansion and say, hey, how can these new technologies that have freed us up now be applied to help more people? There's a lot of global challenges. Just look at the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, right? Maybe some of that resonates with you. There's 17 of them. Maybe something resonates with you there, and you might find ways to work on some of those challenges. And now maybe there's possibilities that have opened up, or maybe possibilities will open up in the future. I don't know. And I think it does take a lot of investigating. It just comes down to like, oh, what am I curious about? I'm just gonna like follow my curiosity and see where that leads me. And that's really all it is. And that's what we're doing at Shutterly too. We're just running a lot of different experiments with image generation and seeing how we can solve business problems, real world challenges with that. Because tools like ChatGPT are general purpose technologies. The real power here is in taking those general purpose technologies. In fact, the more powerful they become, the better, because now you can take them and you can fine tune them to solve very specific use cases, which is not something that they're going to do, but something that you get to do.
That's so true. It's so true. And I don't know why I want to say this, but I really want someone or team to figure out how to digest plastic.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to do, yeah, man, maybe you can get some models to start, generating some.
Yeah.
I don't know, what would you do? It's like, oh, we're going to start generating a compound. We're going to start, because think of it like this, right? Let's say you can run a bunch of experiments. Let's say you're like, okay, if we want to build a compound that's going to eat plastic, what do we need to do? Okay, right now, I'm just going to make this up, okay? But let's just assume it's like this. Okay, we can create 100,000 experiments. Okay, great. Now these 100,000 experiments fall within this particular set of boundaries. And this set of boundaries or the criteria can be converted into criteria which within which we can run these experiments. And if you can create that simulation, then now you can have a model where you create the simulation or the simulated world, and you just run each of these 100,000 experiments. Now, if you have enough compute to store that model and to run the experiments, those 100,000 experiments, what if you can do that in like minutes or seconds? Now, I don't know if people are understanding what this means here. What I'm saying is like, if you have to physically do these experiments, it's going to take so many resources. It's going to take, you're going to like burn through so much money, resources and people, time to actually get those results. But if you can take that, create a simulated world, and then within that simulated world, you can just like run those 100,000 experiments, and you can do that in like seconds, maybe seconds. It's too fast. I don't know. I'm making up this, but I'm just sharing how this could work. Now you just got your results. Do you know how amazing that is? Like that's how I would go about it. But and by the way, I don't think people know this, right? Like I don't think a lot of people know this, but I've been watching this. Physical robotics is completely incredible. I've seen videos that just came out like 2 days ago from this guy at NVIDIA. Okay, he's like a senior director or something, right? And it's outmaneuvering animals. Like if you see the videos, it looks like it's on fast forward. It's not on fast forward. It's just the fact the robot is able to make those kinds of movements and constantly like it literally could beat a martial. It's like a super martial artist animals. It's insane to me. I saw that and I thought, holy shit. That is O1 loaded into these robots. Imagine O3 is loaded into it. I don't even know what the hell that's gonna do, right? Okay, and so that's another thing. Like, I just saw Japan's like in one of Japan's cities, I might have been Tokyo or something, is loaded on like a full simulated environment. And I just saw this also from NVIDIA. I think people are not seeing the immense capability that this technology is bringing out for us, where we can really, really make a lot of impact. And there has to be, I don't know this for sure, but just for me on a level of understanding, I'm sure that a lot of doors have been opened up for many major breakthroughs to happen in the next 1 decade to 2 decades. I can't even fathom what the next decade will look like. Forget the decade after that. But for the next decade, and that really excites me. What excites me isn't like people are going to do this shit. What excites me is, man, how can I contribute to this? How can I get in there? How can I learn more and actually do something, because that idea I just told you is like one thing, but there's so many other ways to contribute and so many different things. Even what we're doing at Shutterly, it's just running a bunch of experiments with diffusion models, and we're seeing what we can do with it. And the fact that in June I made a presentation for my team, and I said, this is our end goal. Lifestyle photography. I can put a person with a product and a kind of outfit at any time of day and any kind of like I said that, and it's going to look so real and it's going to be a beautiful image, and that right there is going to replace real people. And I was like, yeah, we're going to do that in like a year, 2 years maybe, or even longer. That
How
was in
many months?
June.
How many
Yeah.
months?
And we like achieved that in September. July, August, September, 3 months later. But it's not like we went and we created some crazy new technology. It's just that a new technology got released into the market that we were able to fine tune to accomplish that. Right. And now we're in December. So we actually were just going and doing this for people individually, but I've pretty much like stopped doing that. Now we're doing something for real estate. And we also fine tuned. We created our own model on top of that for fashion, and that looks incredibly real, more real than anything else that I've seen. And it's basically the vision that I pitched. It's not 100% there yet, but it works in a very basic way. But it looks real enough and it's good enough to use. So we're just building the workflows, the execution to be able to like actually go and deliver something. We have a couple businesses that are like interested, so we're just going to deliver some stuff to them so they can see the samples. But whatever our training outputs were really good. So this isn't even like I haven't even gotten started. I don't even feel like I've gotten started. And the fact that we were able to get amazing results so quickly is incredible. And it's not about us. It's a testament to how fast the space is moving.
And it's going to keep moving faster and faster. I agree. Yeah, I mean, this is not my space. And just from what I'm seeing and what you're sharing and all these things, it's like really just incredible. It gives me the chills. It's like such an awesome time to be alive, really.
Yeah,
And
it's
again, go ahead.
faster movement than when the internet came out, than when the App Store came out.
Sure.
Like I've obviously I didn't experience those much because I was really young, but from what I'm hearing, there's huge opportunity.
Right, right,
It's
right,
up to
right.
us to like stand up and just you don't know what's gonna happen, but it just comes down to like, hey, what can I learn? How can I contribute? I don't think there's anything much. What can I give? These are simple questions to ask and just show up.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting.
I show up every day.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep yourself well because, you know, ultimately anything and everything we do comes from, you know, how we are, basically. You know, how evolved we are, um, how our system is, you know, to what extent we function. Um, that's the basis of how much we can do and how quality it is, I feel.
But I want to say that I would separate the cutthroat from the sociopathic because I think I'm quite cutthroat,
Hmm.
but I'm not sociopathic. What does it mean, cutthroat? It's about holding someone else and oneself to a standard higher than
Okay,
what one might hold oneself to, and to really commit to that. And so I
that's
prefer an environment where everyone is committed to holding each other to a higher standard
yeah,
and,
true.
and just like really keeping it there. If
Oh,
and so I think that's what cutthroat would be.
if that's cutthroat, then I guess we're cutthroat. But
Maybe that's not it. I don't know. Cutthroat. If I visualize cutthroat, it's a different image.
it is a different image, definitely, than that, I think. Because when I think of cutthroat, I also think of like self-centered. It's more of like I'm gonna cut the throats of anybody who gets in my way. I mean, that's kind of I associate it with personal ambition. Um, and get there no matter what you have to do. But that may be just a wrong definition, you know. Um, I haven't looked it up, honestly. The technical definition of cutthroat.
Let's see. Cutthroat meaning. People have searched that. A murderer or violent criminal.
Oh,
Fierce and intense, involving the use of ruthless measures. An example
yeah,
for
so
that
there you
is
go.
the cutthroat world of fashion.
So yeah, that's kind of where I went with it. It's like a little bit more ruthless, and ruthless to me means personal ambition, where like if you get my way, you know, I'm just gonna kind of knock you off, and it's not, yeah. So I guess, yeah, that's really, it is accurate then.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting too. This is another thing. So actually, in aligning with what I said, or connecting to what I said before, so I'm just gonna kind of like go back into this insight notes, which are: true vision aligns with the fundamental purpose of life, which is human well-being, and recognizes that the basic business of life is human well-being. And many of the activities that we have become engaged with on this planet have lost sight of the original vision of human well-being, and that our ideas of success and well-being have been structured for domination or depression or oppression or suppression. And so we need to like collectively restructure the meaning of success.
Why not just do it individually for oneself? And that's what everyone can do themselves.
Well, I mean, of course, that is what we have to do, right? Like ultimately what we're talking about is personal responsibility, personal transformation, our personal alignment with our integrity. Everything is about us, our unique system. That is what we can do, and that is what we have the power to do. And at the same time, we're talking about leadership and, you know, involvement and our impact in the world, because whether we're conscious of it or not, we do have an impact in the world, right? So if we're talking about like even what we were talking about before of like inspiring people with the vision and getting them at people on a team, you know, moving in a direction and creating something collectively greater than you could by yourself, like in that context, we need to collectively redefine the meaning of success, which is also what I was saying earlier, which success needs to include being physically healthy, having like amazing connections with all the people around you, contributing to the world in a way that's, you know, meaningful and does contribute to well-being, and that deeply impacts other people's lives in a positive, healthy way. That's what I'm saying about collectively redefining success. Because like right now, you know, it's like profits, stock market, this, that, the other, and that's all great. But I mean, Sadhguru has talked about this a lot, where it's like that to some degree, that's not really sustainable.
Yeah, I think there's two ways there. One is like how it's whether or not it's sustainable to have profits as a major driver for society. That's one thing. And then the second thing is why it's not sustainable for an individual human being for them to function, because eventually they're going to not feel fulfilled even if they hit their goals, as you mentioned earlier. But at the same time, I've observed that some people just are driven
Yeah,
by certain things
true.
that are not going to lead to fulfillment. But perhaps that's just the way that someone chooses to be, and that's the pursuit they've chosen. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to sleep, it's not necessarily that you achieved or didn't achieve, because you're not going to achieve something every single day, like your big goal or whatever, but it's about the pursuit of that.
It's the process.
Yeah,
It's
and
the,
for some people, that pursuit should be something physical. For others, it should be a feeling. I don't know what it should be for everyone, but maybe that's what the difference is. I don't know.
yeah, and also I mean, what you just said is, yes, it's true. Like, I mean, I'm from the US, okay, so this country is founded on like people should be able to do what they want, you know, and you just said like some people are driven by certain things. It's true. And it's not about dictating what other people are driven by or not. Like, yes, everyone needs to really connect with who they are and what they are and what they care about and what are their values and all of those things. And there is a way that I think by living in integrity yourself, you do impact the world around you. And I feel that for myself, you know, when I've cleaned up and cleared up I'm just going to call it survival level primal animalistic issues, like you had said earlier, when people are getting their needs met. Maybe you didn't say it that way, but you know, when you're not in survival mode, you really have the capacity to think on a bigger level, you know, go into that like creative, inclusive brain. So when I've been able to clean that stuff up in myself, someone who is driven more in a way that's personal ambition and less inclusive, less integritous, naturally I see that and I feel that, and I can consciously choose whether or not to support it or not, you know, directly support it. I'll say it that way. Like, yeah, this gets into a whole nother thing, but like I do personally feel like, yeah, if somebody's making like chemical laden processed food that's keeping people sick, like you get to choose, like go to the farmer's market and buy real stuff, you know, something that's life supporting. Don't get something that's like death supporting, you know?
Right. Yeah, we do get to make our own choice in terms of where we allocate our time. We also get to decide what we allow within our space. That's
It's true.
individual choice.
Yeah. And ultimately, like that is also the idea of becoming more aware of life, of the fabric of life, of your capacity as a life, of your values, of really connecting to that deeper level of being, because there's a level of inclusiveness that happens, and you need, I think we all do have to ask ourselves, like, how are my actions? Is my personal drivers? How do they impact the people and the world around me?
Yeah, but then at that some point in time, it also comes down to doing what is necessary for your well-being and ensuring that you have taken care of this life that you are, because it
Sure.
should not come at the cost of people pleasing.
That's totally true. 1,000,000% true. And that ties right back to what I was talking about earlier, which was exactly what I was saying with make clear agreements, have business like business like treatment for business things, human like treatment for for people.
Yeah, another way that we're talking about this, you have the negotiation between individuals, and that's
Okay.
transactional, so you
Mm,
handle it appropriately.
mm,
There are humans behind the negotiation, and the human should be treated like a piece of life, which is separate from a negotiation, which is about the transaction.
yeah.
So one should have the clarity to see these as disparate entities,
Mm,
however, also that they are interconnected, because we are two individual, independent beings coming together to be interdependent.
yeah. Yeah. And what comes up for me as well in that is like it's not linear. It's and that's the feminine, the feminine, the life giver, the caring, generous, like it's not like, oh, it's not, there are, particularly when we're talking about workplaces and you know, all of these things, like, yeah, that is transactional and there's a specific structure that's been created. Um, but when we're talking about people and just sharing life, that's you have to handle that in a way that isn't gross, that isn't purely transactional, that isn't, yeah, I don't know what the right word is, but that's where like the feminine for me comes in, because it's inclusive, it's loving, it's human, it's nature, it's like gracious, and it just has a lot more space for life. I don't know if I really said what I wanted to say, but um, I do think it's important not to be a people pleaser. I do think it's important not to allow yourself to be used. um, and we could talk a lot about the underneath dynamics of like what is even a people pleaser and where does it come from in people, but also there is a deeply beautiful way of inclusiveness that is really important to the beauty of life, that is not linear and not transactional and not people pleasing. It's not coming from any of those places. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, where is your foundation? Where are you seated? And where are you coming from? That's how I see it.
Mm, mhm,
So I'll give
mhm,
very clear examples. When I first started with this, um, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do something like offer a service where I'm going to have engineers from India, and then we're going to sell services to Americans, Canadians, really leveraging the currency arbitrage. Right? So we tried a bunch of different things and eventually got to this place of like, oh, we're going to do this with AI services. Oh, we're going to do it with this, with that. We tried a bunch of different stuff. Oh, you know what? Maybe we should build like consumer app. Oh, we should do something where we can make money. And I got to this point where I was like, look, I don't care about making money primarily.
Mm.
Making money is not the driver for me. Money would come as a consequence of building a great experience, of building a great product that is actually impacting and changing the way people exist. Not the whole world necessarily, right? It's about the area under the curve. It could be really, really changing the game a lot for a small group of people, or it could be changing the game very little, but for a lot of people, or somewhere in between. Or maybe it's changing the game completely for a lot of people. I don't know, right? I don't know what's possible. But the point here is that the process, the creative process, is what I care about. And then there's other areas of my life where I want to conduct myself in a particular way. And I want to achieve certain things. Not to prove anything. It's just who I am. It's an expression of myself. And every single day, it's waking up and being excited and being obsessed about what I'm working on. That right there is what I care about, right? It's not me going on X and seeing how some 17-year-old kids just became millionaires by making some app for their school, which is happening, by the way. I don't know if people are aware, but things like this are happening. And they're far more frequent than you might assume. I see these kind of things a lot on X. They're called indie hackers, and a lot this is teenagers and early 20s. I tried some of this. I was like, oh, maybe we should build something like this. Can we even build something for consumers? But that's not for me. I didn't grow up in the generation. Maybe it has to do with the generation I grew up in, but I think it's also partially my own quality, which is I didn't grow up trying to make something that I can flip, make a quick buck. That was not really something that interested me, but rather what did interest me is, whoa, this is really cool technology. Because I was jailbreaking my iPod back in grade 7. That's literally the year that iPod first came out, right? That second generation iPod. When that just came out, hit the market, I got it. And I was jailbreaking it like a teenager kid, right? Grade 7. I don't know how, like grade 12-year-old. I don't know how old I was. And I had a lot of fun, maybe 11 years old. I had a lot of fun. It was really, really great, and that's the process. The process is how can we play with this technology, really understand it, and see how can we apply this into our lives to make our lives better.
So true.
That's really all that matters. And
That
so
is all that matters.
exactly. And the money comes as a consequence of somebody receiving something that is useful and saying, "Oh my God, just shut up and take my money. I will pay for this thing right now." That's what it is, and that's the process that I enjoy. Not about making a quick buck of like, "Oh, I'm gonna make this thing. I'm gonna flip it." Blah blah blah. There are some people driven by things like that.
Yes,
Or
there are a lot
pursuits
of people,
like that.
but that's not what we're talking about here.
All right, and so I was trying to go that route, but I just couldn't. Like my heart just wasn't in it. It'd be like I was just talking to some people on the weekend. We're hanging out, and I was like, man, I can have so many ideas if I want to like sell drugs or sell weapons. Because I was explaining, because we were talking about like, turns out there's only 5 countries in the world that like export like 75% of the weapons in the world, and one of them is America. It's like USA, France, Germany, China. I forget what the last one is. That's not the point. But I was just talking about how I was like, man, I had the idea already. I said, I'm sure there's only like a handful of nations, maybe like 2 or 3 countries, a few companies that build, that manufacture and sell all the weapons. And they're like, really, blah, blah. I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure if I was me, I would do it like this. And I'm like, if it was me, I would sell to both sides and I would sell it on the black market. And I'm like, I bet they're already doing that. And I had so many ideas. I was like, man, if I really wanted to, I could sell drugs and weapons and really kill it. But I can't do it because like even if I can get the ideas and I take action on it, I couldn't genuinely take action on it. I couldn't keep going with ideas because that's not
In integrity for you.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. I was going to say that's not what my heart is, but I think that's the same thing, right? So it's the same way
It is
that I can't
not
put
integrity for you. It's not in alignment with all of your values and, you know, what you care to put into the world and who you are.
Yeah, and I couldn't do this quick buck thing either. Whereas it's easier for me to say, hey, did I notice this in Shutterly, what we're doing right now? We're trying to build this AI photo shoots for people, and we're not going to build an application. What we're doing is offering it as a service. We understand if I do want to build an application, what's required. Today, if I wanted to, I know the exact requirements to build an application that would decimate all the existing applications, at least in
Why?
terms of the value it provides, because I see a value that we've been giving to our customers and the outcomes and like let's talk about purely from an outcome perspective, the outcomes that we give to our customers versus the outcomes that people that use those apps get, complete difference. That being said, we are offering the service, but I have whatever I've been doing on top of it to change to provide a much better outcome. I can take that and I can automate it because I know what those requirements are. And I know exactly, like, simplify it to the last detail. I can do that, but there's certain other technical requirements in terms of like our server costs and running it 24/7, getting the GPUs and stuff, and then putting it onto the App Store, and then going and selling it like over and over. What is going to be our go-to-market? And that's just not something I can genuinely can wake up and be super excited about. Now, if I have some extra money from our B2B and I put it out there and find someone who wants like growth hack it or something, we totally do that. But also there's another drawback to it, which is that this isn't solving a recurring problem for people. Now I have a bunch of ideas on how we can do that and build into like some sort of like a social network, but I just don't see that being a good move right now, because right now a lot of people are doing it just to make a quick buck. And I can see this from like what they're offering. It's like the same thing, right? It's like copycats and stuff. Another thing, or is what we're trying to do with B2B is, hey, can we build a sustainable B2B offer? Oh, we can do this for businesses. Oh, we have something that might be pretty cool. That's great. Now we have this thing for real estate. Cool. Let's just go out and sell to more businesses. We already have more, we have a higher order request than we could fill. I told them no, but now I'm thinking, hey, wait a minute. Let's just go find a bunch of more businesses. And if they do want it, then we can just start building capacity to fulfill those orders. And then eventually we can automate. So we're going to explore this. But the whole thing is an experiment. And what genuinely pulls me, it's not, oh, we're going to make a lot of money. Yeah, I do want to make sure we make a lot of money because it's very important, right? It's resource. And the more resource you have, the better it is. As long as that resource is not encumbering. So that's a different concept. But resource allocation and resource access are two very important concepts. And there's like two very important things to have. But it really just comes down to like, what is it that I wake up for and I'm actually excited about and I can genuinely take action on?
Right.
Right? Because some people, no matter how hard they may try, you can't wake up and start like fighting people, being like some people can't be like a cop or something. They just don't have it in them to be that way. You know what I'm saying? Like some people can't be in the military. Maybe military is a better example. Like you can't just wake up and be like, I'm gonna be in the army. It's not possible for some people because they don't have those qualities. I don't think I could be that either. Maybe I could, but not for a long time. Like I could do it for a period of time, but then at some point I'd be like, oh, I don't want to live this life. This isn't for me. So I feel like there's this thing, and I don't know if a lot of people are gonna resonate with this, but talk about like selling guns or whatever, right? If I wanted to sell these weapons and drugs, I'm like, man, I could do it in some good way. But some of those people are like incredible entrepreneurs, right? They're like next level. So especially the drug people, like I met some of them next level. But for me, if I even try to head in that direction, I feel like I'm naturally like flying into opposite direction. It's almost like I'm walking and there's a tornado behind me, and the tornado is pulling me away. So that's what my experience is.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear what you're saying about, because I have also had this experience many, many, many times and still do now, where you can see many different ways you could make a large amount of money or have a successful business. But it has to be in alignment with what you want to do. And like you said, like the type of way, like what defines success for you, which is like for those teenage kids, it's like, oh yeah, like make something and sell it for $1 million or whatever it is. That's amazing. But again, like your definition of what it takes to get you up in the morning. What are you excited about doing? Like all those things are there. And I agree. I'm the same way, that way. And I love what you said about creating value, because that's really I would say, the fundamental purpose of business. And that's, if we're talking about energetics, when it's regards to money, like it totally connects. But the idea with business, right, is to make profitable solutions for people and the planet. Like really, that's what a good business is, you know? And what you said about creating the app, but having it not seeing a place in the marketplace that it would need to be a reoccurring need or something like that. Like even that is an insight into like how long-term of a solution it is or whatever. Like, and those are two things which you need and for to execute and kind of navigate your vision. Or we talk about foresight and insight. You have to see things before other people see them. And you have to have those are foresight and insight.
Well, it's interesting you say that. And what's been happening last few months is we've been constantly experimenting with the latest technology. And when I say with the latest technology, you can think of it as like new algorithms are coming out for open source models and even paid models, and we play around with them, right? We take them, we play around with them, we experiment with them. It's almost like I want to simplify it so it's in a way that people can really understand. Imagine a flower is discovered.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a new flower is discovered. Turns out with this flower, you can make new medicines. Now, all of a sudden, with this flower, you just discover it's like a miracle drug.
Mm-hmm.
You can put it in one thing, it behaves a particular way. You put it with another plant, it behaves another way. You put it into like hydrogen peroxide, it behaves a particular way. And its behavior indicates how it could be useful for different applications.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that, imagine a flower like that was discovered, and what's going to happen? Oh, people really want that flower, right? But the flower is so new, you don't even know what's going to happen when you put it in this thing, and you don't know how that's going to be useful. So you do experiments, and then you test it with people, and you see, hey, is this useful? Is this not useful? Oh, how's this working for you? Oh my gosh, this just cured cancer. Wow. Whoa. 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 All you got to do is take this brand new flower we've just discovered. We need to start growing a whole lot of it. And we can, making these mixtures out of this flower, and that's going to cure cancer. Magical. So it's exactly that, right? Instead of flowers, there are researchers that are developing large language models and diffusion models. And so for us, it comes down to cool. Let's experiment with them on the raw end. Like there's no front end. It's all back end. It's not like interface where you're talking to ChatGPT. It's not like that. It's a coding environments, programming, Python, and we're just experimenting with that to see what we can create with it. How can we help people with it? So those are the insights that we're getting. And we've gotten some really great insights. And a lot of the other people that are doing this are getting a lot of other great insights that we don't have. There's communities that we're parts of where people are experimenting, getting all kinds of different insights. And then we're also talking to people and we're saying, hey, is this useful for you? Oh, is this? And they're like, wow, this is really great. Hey, just make sure this much money and we'll do it for you. Great. Okay, great. Now we just sold something. And we sell a bunch of stuff to them, to someone here, to someone there, to someone there. We use this models, create something, we give it to them. Oh, okay. Oh, this is useful. Wow, we just sold something like this to like a bunch of different people. Right? But is this something that we could sell to a lot of people? Is that an outcome they care about? Okay, well, how are we going to deliver this outcome? Can we deliver this outcome to 1 million people, to 1 billion people? Oh, well, let's say we didn't want to deliver. Oh, wait a minute, this thing right here, we could deliver to every single person on the planet. Holy shit. No. How about every adult? Okay, great. Every adult between 20 and 50? How many is that? Dude, that must be like half the planet. Maybe. I don't know. Holy crap. That's billions of dollars, even if all of them just buy it once. Do we have access to them? Are they actually even how many of them are actually going to want it? Hell, if like a fraction of a percent want it, that could be like $1 million. Oh, how are we going to get it to them? Like, are they going to come to us? Have we built such an amazing product that delivers the outcome in such a simple and quick way with the least amount of effort for them? And it's at a price that they can really afford?
Right.
Oh, great. Now they're going to come to us and they're going to share with their friends. But
Mhm.
have we built that? Yes, no, no. Well, how can we do that? Let's get a bunch of people like that and let's just like work with them to see how we create that for them. It's just a very simple process on understanding this new technology that's come out, understanding what people's behavior is and where the behavior is going as a general trend, and just mapping those and constantly experimenting at front lines.
Yeah.
It's that simple. It's literally that simple. You just have to make sure that you do not die. Which means, and how do you die? You die when you run out of money.
Hmm.
Okay? So you make sure that you haven't died. How do you know you're making progress? To be frank, you don't.
Hmm.
In some ways you do, but in some ways you don't know. But the best evidence of knowing that you're making progress is by understanding that you've been talking to people to understand their problems and learning whether or not they're actually going to pay you, and not by them saying they're going to pay you, by them actually paying you. And then also learning whether or not you can deliver that outcome to them by delivering that outcome to them.
Right.
And that's the entire process. It's so simple. And that's the process to building something long-term and sustainable. And the deeper, and I've really been looking at this, the deeper we go, the wider it's going to go. So the deeper we go, the wider it's going to go, the foundation it's going to be, and the higher we can go, which is the
Right.
more lives we can touch, or how deeply we can touch more lives. And this process right here, you just keep it up. There's
Yeah.
nothing, there's no end goal, there's no outcome. There might be some ideas, some vision you want to accomplish of like, oh, you know what? It'd be great if the world like looked like this. Is that possible? Oh, well, I don't know. It's not up to me to know whether or not something's possible, but I really care about that. So let me go and see what I do about it.
Hmm.
And that's all it is. But this is a process that I can live for because it's not about the process itself. It's about the fact that this right here, A, is an expression of my nature, and B, I can use it to connect to a larger context. And a larger context is how am I contributing to the well-being of whole of humanity? Can I do something for the existence itself? Yes. But that's on a non-physical level. But can I do something for humanity, for to live in harmony with life on this planet? Yes, we can do something about that, can't we? And if not for humanity and life on this planet to coexist, but can I at least do something to not damage that? Can I at least do something to progress humanity? And what does progressing humanity mean?
Yeah.
Right. These are very simple things, and that's what it comes down to, right? Which is how can we live a life that is fulfilled from the inside out? And how can we live a life where we're contributing as much as we can? I don't think there's any but if you hear what I said, I didn't mention jets. I didn't mention supercars. I didn't mention supermodels. I didn't
Hmm.
mention um, mansions. I didn't
Hmm.
mention bling.
Hmm.
I didn't mention parties. All that stuff, if it's there, is great. Actually, it's not that great. It's kind of, I don't care about it.
Depends on which
But
aspect of have my version of one of those is great.
yeah, that's not really what matters, right? If it's there, if you care about it, that's fine. But that's still not going to be the main thing for anybody. I don't think so. Especially not for anybody who's genuinely experiencing any success. Because anybody that I have seen that genuinely accomplishes something that is larger than themselves, when I show up in the presence, I hear them speak. It's clear for me, loud as the bright day.
Hmm.
Right. Exactly. Loud as the bright day. I said that to confuse the people that are watching. And if it didn't confuse you, well, you need to pay attention. If you still don't get it, you are, I don't know where you are. You're not paying attention. But yeah, it's about the process. And I just shared with you my process of this is what it is. And for far too long, I didn't pay attention to that call because of different reasons, but also I've been integrating the internal and the external, and that's where the magic is. If you can live fulfilled within you, no matter what, and just show up and create your arrangements in life and contribute, I don't think there's anything much more to it. Uh, Life is about two things: profoundness of experience and impactful activity. How profound is your experience of life? How impactful is your activity? That's all it's about. And there's a bunch of other stuff on the periphery, and there's categories of your life that you would want to define your life plan by and make improvements in, but those are all going to leave you empty if you don't have the first two things.
Yeah, you have to have the foundation in place, or the house is going to be real wobbly.
It
Even
is a
if
house of cards.
the story built and it looks really pretty, the least bit of wind comes and it's just crumbles, you know. So
Yeah,
you have
that
to
got
have.
deeply personal. I just shared a bunch of stuff about myself. I was not expecting to share that. In fact, I don't think I've shared that with anyone. So, to all you listeners out there, I hope this is impactful for you.
Mm-hmm.
Not that
Well,
I've been
thank
hiding it, it just never came up. At least
you.
not in this way. I've shared bits and pieces with people in conversation, but I've never shared a story like this because this is actually very recent and just hasn't come up. And yeah, few people have the ability to shut up and listen if I'm sharing something like this. They'll keep interrupting me. No, not talking shit about them. They are my friends and I love them. But Naomi listened,
I did
and
listen.
everybody else listened who's listening because you
I,
have no choice.
yeah, and it's all really interesting. So thanks for sharing. I mean, I just in closing, because I know we both have to go, but I just would say that like it's the same message for me, which is that it's such an incredible time. Like we're talking about like AI and um technology and the impact and possibilities and how our world is going to change so much in the next, decade. And my business is more around personal transformation and personal development and inner transformation and growth within the self, and then in turn how you relate to the world and people. And I would just say that like, yeah, now is a time. I mean, I've been doing like reading spiritual books, meditating, going to, different, I had different teachers, going to workshops, studying this stuff since I think the first yoga class I took was maybe in 1994. So that was a long time ago. And where we are right now is so incredible in terms of the availability of true techniques. In other words, like Kriyas, like the Isha Foundation teaches. The availability has never ever been this wide in the history of the planet before. And also, and this is all related to technology and what we're talking about, and availability of language and models on an interpersonal, psychological, you know, relational level that I have access to, that I've studied, that I use with my clients. It's so incredible, the rate of growth. I really, really feel like I've lived literally thousands of lifetimes in my life. That's how it feels. And the amount of growth and evolution that's happened for me is absolutely immense. And I see this with clients as well. And so in any case, I would say that in the world in general of forward movement, full potential, progress, personal, spiritual, and, you know, exponential growth. It's just an incredible opportunity right now. And so to build that solid foundation for whatever it is you want to manifest or contribute, and yeah, it's do it. It's a great time to do it. It's very powerful, and now is the time, you know. So
Just to visualize, right? Let's say it was 150 years ago. You could be in some city, maybe in some town, maybe in some village. And what is there for you? Let's say you live life expectancy 60 years. And within those 60 years, you're going to live the exact same life story that your forefathers lived for centuries with the occasional black swan event, like a plague or like a world war.
yeah.
But other than that, the only thing you had access to was to live the exact same life story. But in the last few decades, a lot has been introduced. And what has been introduced has allowed people today to access anything and transform their lives completely, whether it is transforming the way that you exist as a human being with access to tools like yoga and meditation, coaching, therapy, whatever,
Yep.
athlete training, however you want, right? To transform this body, mind, emotions, energy.
Yes.
You've also gotten access to learn anything, to contribute to society, to earn money,
Yeah.
to change, to really like become a master of your destiny is now an opportunity that was not available until now, because the
Yeah.
world is so connected and everything knowledge is accessible.
Yeah.
Soon we're going to have models that are going to translate between any language for us in a very clear and sensible way, so you will be able to communicate with anybody
Amazing.
and learn anything. So
incredible.
yeah, when you
But
talk about living
it's
many
so
lifetimes in one
incredible.
lifetime, it's possible. It is right now. It is happening right now.
It's so incredible. And even like when I think of, like I saw, what was it? It was a social media post or something yesterday, and it was talking a little bit about um like this sort of this particular aspect of Asian society around certain dynamics within families. And what I just, it put me, I saw this window into this hugely impactful dynamic and how it could be healed like that, how it could just be like cleaned up. So what you were just sharing in terms of 150 years ago, how, you know, people were in a village or whatever town and this was their reality. And the same thing applies to social structures, family structures, like the way that you were, the way that the people were around you, what your family, the mindset, the imposition, the demands, the relationship dynamics, like all of that was just locked in. You were in it, and then that's what you learned. You had no exposure to other ways of being, thinking, seeing things, really not that much at least. And then you repeat the pattern through generations and generations. And that is where we are right now. We don't do that anymore. We don't have to do that anymore. Like, this is what I have literally done with myself, and I help people to do all the time, is to like extract themselves, take the claws of that unhealthy, dysfunctional, toxic, generational, absolutely insane patterns, and just like become free of them. It's so cool. It is really so cool. So yeah, just in every way, in every level, it's a beautiful, incredible time. And I just want everyone who is watching this to take full advantage of it, because it's an opportunity that is unprecedented and so immense. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you all for listening, and we'll come back with you for the next conversation.